Hi there, I'm the _twig, and I like analysing game rules. Pop quiz: if you have the speedy feat and I cast the spells Long Strider and Fly on you, what is your fly speed? That's right, 70 feet. You don't understand how movement works in D&D 5e. I can say that with basically 99% certainty, and the reason that it's not 100% is because I will watch this back to check the audio and animations. The rules for movement and speed are so insane that even Wizards of the Coast gets them wrong on occasion. This video is about those rules. It is not an endorsement of them, it is not a suggestion to use them, and I don't even use these rules myself. This video is laying bare my single most hated thing about D&D 5e, a game which I otherwise love. It will surprise you, it will confuse you, it might make you angry, and here's a video of a penguin getting chin scratches. Aww, isn't that cute? It's so happy. If you get to the end, I'll give you another one. Or, if you join my Patreon, you can get more penguin videos right now. Everyone here has been receiving daily penguin clips on my Discord, ranging from them sliding on their bellies to a baby penguin having its first ever bath to an especially jumpy little rock hopper. In addition, SK, Mark Rainbow, Biney, Jaleli and Precipice can get a no expenses paid holiday to meet and even hug a penguin. Doesn't that sound great? Right, so, first up, let me reintroduce myself. Hi there, I'm the _twig, and I've spent over 4 years building my understanding of specifically the movement rules in D&D. They are my pet hatred. I have a very wide-ranging knowledge of D&D's rules, as my regular viewers will be able to tell you, but the two areas that I consider myself a genuine expert in are 2-weapon fighting and movement. My third video ever was a deep dive into the updated movement rules in 1D&D's Expert Classes playtest, way back in 2022. And why they were ultimately an upgrade even if they still weren't great. Even before that, I knew several D&D YouTubers like Pack Tactics and would explain movement rules to them or give them puzzles, similar to the ones that I'm about to give all of you. Right, the last thing before we get into the actual meat of the video is that I need to make sure that we're all clear on our terminology. There are 4 words that we need to cover here: move, movement, speed with a capital S, and speed with a lowercase s. Move is very straightforward. It is what you do when you transport yourself from one location to another, except by teleporting. Doing this uses your movement. Movement is a resource. As long as you have movement available, you can move. But the movement that you spend on your turn can never exceed your speed with a capital S. Speed with a capital S is what you actually write on your character sheet. If you say that your character has 30-foot speed, you are talking about your capital S speed. This defines how much movement you have available on your turn. Even more specifically, capital S speed is explicitly your walk speed. Some characters can get what are called special speeds, like a fly speed or a swim speed, with which they can fly or swim. Capital S speed is the speed that you use to walk. Finally, lowercase s speed. This is sort of like a catch-all for all of your different capital speeds. When something like Barbarian's fast movement says that it changes your lowercase s speed, it means that it changes your walk speed and your fly speed and your swim speed. Why are there 2 completely different things, both called speed? I don't know. Ask Watsy. For clarity's purpose though, in this video I'll be calling capital S speed walk speed and lowercase s speed either lowercase s speed or speeds in plural. Okay, let's introduce the hero of our dreadful story. This is Busain Alt, an amazingly fast runner who we will be following throughout this video. He is on a mission to hunt down the evil Jen Bonson, who stole a genie's lamp and wished for the movement rules to be a confusing mess. Busain has tracked Jen down and has discovered that he will be fleeing on a ship called the For a Time. But oh no, it's setting sail in just a couple of minutes. Busain will need to run to the port to catch it. We'll pick up the story here. Busain is on the west side of the map and he's riding his trusty horse, Binning Roo. He'll need to make his way past Jen's henchmen, through the busy bazaar, across the pier, and then somehow jump, swim or fly onto the ship, which has already set sail. If he doesn't make it there in the next 6 seconds, the For a Time will get out onto the open sea and Jen Bonson will have escaped. In total, you'll have to travel 310 feet to get to the ship in just one turn. Let's zoom in on Busain and Binning-Roo. Binning-Roo is a warhorse, nothing special about him. He has 60-foot walk speed and is being treated as a controlled mount. Busain ult is a bit more complicated. He's level 16 Wood Elf, with 6 levels in Ranger and 10 levels in Monk. His subclasses don't matter. As a Wood Elf, his base walk speed is 35 feet, range 6 then gives him Roving, which increases his walk speed by 10 feet, and gives him a swim speed and a climb speed equal to his walk speed. As a 10th level Monk, he additionally gets Unarmoured Movement, which increases his lowercase speed by 20 feet. Furthermore, because he knew he would need to run for the ship, he has cast the spell Long Strider on himself, which increases his walk speed by 10 feet for 1 hour, as well as Jump, which lets him spend 10 feet of movement to jump 30 feet. Additionally, his friend, Dangalf the Wizard, has cast Fly on him, giving Busain a fly speed of 60 feet before any modifiers. It's time for audience participation part 1. Simple question, what are Busain's speeds? He has a walk speed, a fly speed, a swim speed, and a climb speed, although the swim and climb should be the same number, so you only need to calculate the swim. I want you to work out how many feet he can move with each one, assuming that that was the only thing that he did on his turn. Here's all of the information in one nice easy list. We could ignore jump for now, but it will come up later. And if you want to listen to the full explanation again, here's the timestamp. Make sure to write down your answer on a piece of paper, or if you're feeling really adventurous, even leave a comment. Okay, I'll begin explaining the answer in 3, 2, 1, and as Tantacruel, the greatest YouTuber to ever grace this platform, once said,
Okay, are you ready for the pain?
So, we'll begin with Busain's walk speed, since it's the easiest one, and is also required to calculate the swim speed. As a Wood Elf, he has a base walk speed of 35 feet, and he then adds 10 from Roving, 20 from Unarmoured Movement, and 10 from Long Strider, coming out to a final total of 75 feet. Nice and easy. I expect most of you got that one right. Second up is his fly speed. The fly spell gives him 60-foot fly speed, but do any of his other boosts benefit? The answer is yes. Unarmoured Movement boosts speed with a lowercase s, which means that it also boosts all his special speeds, increasing his fly speed up to 80 feet. But we're not done yet. You see, the rules of speed on page 374 of the PHB state that if an effect increases or decreases your walk speed for a time, any special speed that you have increases or decreases by an equal amount for the same duration. Long Strider increases Busain's walk speed for 1 hour. That's a time, and it means that it also increases his fly speed up to 90 feet. Roving, on the other hand, increases Busain's walk speed permanently. Because it has no duration, it does not boost his special speeds. To repeat this again with more clarity, Unarmoured Movement works here because it says speed with a lowercase s, Long Strider works here because it says speed with a capital S and has a duration, but Roving does not work because it says speed with a capital S and does not have a duration. Why? I have no freaking clue why. Don't use these rules. The final answer for fly speed is 90 feet. Okay, last one, swim speed. If you aren't already broken and seething, get ready. So, it starts off easy enough. Roving says that Busain's swim speed is equal to his walk speed. We've already calculated his walk speed as 75 feet, so that's our starting point. Now, Roving, Unarmoured Movement, and Long Strider. Do we add anything? As we saw in fly speed, we add on Unarmoured Movement because it boosts lowercase speed, and Long Strider because it has a duration, but not Roving because it doesn't. That means that Busain's swim speed is 105 feet. Wait a minute, hold on, are we double counting Unarmoured Movement and Long Strider? We already applied them to walk speed. I thought that there was a rule that says that you don't combine effects with the same name. I am sorry, child, I have tarnished your innocence. Busain's base speed is equal to his walk speed. It doesn't look at the base value for walk speed, it doesn't remember the names of features boosting it. All it does is it sees that Busain has 75-foot walk speed. That value then becomes his base swim speed. His base swim speed isn't 75 feet, but it includes Roving, Unarmoured Movement, and Long Strider. His base swim speed is just 75 feet. Whenever you have a feature which says that you have a special speed equal to your walk speed, you double count any feature which boosts either your lowercase speed or your walk speed and has a duration, and you single count any features which boost your walk speed and do not have a duration. The final answer is 105 feet. I hate it, I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. Oh my good god, why? Don't use these rules. Okay, how are you all doing? Are you settled in with the slow burning pain? Have any of you had to punch a wall yet? If you got 1 out of 3 on that, well done, that's the expected grade. If you got 2 out of 3, excellent. And if you got 3 out of 3, then you either cheated or you've talked to me before and have heard me complaining about these rules for ages. I kind of have a reputation in certain communities for being the only person that understands this and hating my life because of it. Right, break over, let's move on to the movement rules. So movement is actually pretty vague in 5e. Unlike speed, it doesn't have a rules glossary entry. The only rules text that we have about it are 2 paragraphs on page 24 and a small sidebar on 25 about playing on a grid. These state that you have an amount of movement equal to your walk speed, that you spend movement to move, and that when playing on a grid you spend movement in discrete chunks of 5 feet to enter an adjacent square. You can think of it like a fuel gauge. Your walk speed is the maximum volume of the fuel tank, and your movement is how much fuel you have remaining. As you move around, you use up fuel, or movement, until you hit 0, at which point you can no longer move. This is probably the easiest way to think of movement. It's what WotC suggests, it's what I've used in previous videos, but it completely breaks down when your character has a special speed. Let's bring the speed rules glossary back up. This says that when you change which speed you're using, you deduct the distance moved from your new capital speed to work out how much movement you now have. So if Busain has moved 30 feet so far, he can walk another 45 feet, fly another 60 feet, or swim another 75 feet. If he's moved 80 feet, he can no longer walk because 80 is greater than 75, but he can still fly or swim. In effect, he actually has 3 different fuel gauges. I'm going to be using a different way of tracking movement, which is a lot easier. Rather than a fuel gauge which decreases, we'll be looking at an energy meter. As Busain moves around, the value on the meter increases. It has thresholds for walk, fly and swim, and when Busain passes them, he can no longer use that mode of locomotion. Make sense? We're basically refocusing it so that instead of looking at how much movement we have remaining, we're looking at how much movement we have already spent. If you think that that's functionally the same thing, oh god no. Consider what happens if we're hit by an opportunity attack with a whip after moving 15 feet. That has the slow mastery, and reduces your walk speed by 10 feet until the enemy's next turn. Using the fuel gauge method, you first need to recalculate Busain's speeds, 65 walk, 80 fly, 85 swim, and then deduct 15 from each of them to recalculate his remaining movement. Reducing his speeds also reduced his movement, and by different amounts depending on how he was going to move. With the energy meter method though, you just change the thresholds. You don't need to do any recalculation of movement. Minus 10 feet might seem simple enough that a fuel gauge seems fine, but as you'll see soon, some of these can get really complicated. Look forward to Spirit Guardians. One slight complication here is the dash action. This gives you extra movement equal to your walk speed, although you can choose a different special speed if you want. In this energy meter analogy, that basically works like a refund. If you've moved your full 30-foot walk speed and use the dash action, you effectively go minus 30 to your meter, reducing it back down to 0. This can also put you into the negatives on your meter if you haven't used all of your movement yet. Side note for a very common rules mistake and/or homebrew. If you've ever ruled that a character has a 30-foot walk speed and a 60-foot fly speed, so after they walk 20 feet they can either walk another 10 feet or fly another 20 feet because they've used 2/3 of their movement, sorry, not raw. It makes way more sense, and as you'll see shortly is far easier, but that is not how the 5e rules work. Okay, we know what Busain's speeds are, 75 feet walk speed, 90 foot fly speed, and 105 feet swim speed. We know that he is riding his warhorse, Binning Roo, who has a 60 foot walk speed. We know that movement works like an energy meter, and we know that because we're on a grid, you need to spend movement in discrete chunks of 5 feet to enter the next square. Let's go back to town, and see Busain try to chase down Jen on the For a Time. As a reminder, Busain must get past Jen's henchmen, one of which is casting Spirit Guardians, and the other has a whip with the slow weapon mastery. Then he needs to run through the busy indoor bazaar, which counts as difficult terrain due to the crowds and has a low ceiling so he can't fly, before finally reaching the pier and deciding whether to run along it and jump onto the ship, jump into the air and fly to the ship, or jump into the choppy, difficult terrain water and swim to the ship. Audience participation part 2! As we progress through Busain's turn, I want you to track how much movement is on his meter and whether he makes any illegal moves. I will warn you in advance that his speeds will change and you will need to recalculate them. I'll give you all of the information as we go. We'll follow Busain up to the beginning of the pier and then stop, and I want you to decide if he can make it by running and then jumping, by jumping and then flying, or by jumping and then swimming. Make sure that you have some paper or a spreadsheet or something like that ready. Here we go. Busain begins by riding Binning Roo towards Jen's henchman. Seeing how much distance there is to cover, he decides that Binning Roo should take the dash action, which gives the horse additional movement to spend equal to its walk speed. Binning Roo runs 60 feet before one of the henchmen lands an attack of opportunity with their whip, using the slow weapon mastery to reduce the horse's walk speed by 10 feet until the start of their next turn. Unfazed, Binning Roo now moves another 15 feet up to the edge of this henchman's 15-foot emanation spell, Spirit Guardians. Spirit Guardians halves the walking speed of any creature who is in the emanation. Binning Roo moves 10 feet into the emanation and then stops. Busain dismounts Binning Roo. This costs him an amount of movement equal to half his walk speed, round down, and he can choose any adjacent square to dismount into, so of course he'll choose the easternmost space, effectively moving him 5 feet closer to the 4 time. After dismounting, he walks the remaining 20 feet through the Spirit Guardians and then walks the final 5 feet to step out. He then flies another 25 feet to the bazaar where he has to land. The ceiling here is too low to fly, and the crowd's so thick that it counts as difficult terrain, meaning that every 5 feet he moves will actually cost him an additional 5 feet of movement. Knowing that he has a long way to go, he will use the dash action, but rather than using his walk speed for this, he will use his swim speed, giving him additional movement equal to his swim speed. He will now move 20 feet through the difficult terrain of the bazaar before, oh no, disaster! There was a henchman hiding in the crowds who makes an attack of opportunity and hits Busain with a whip, applying the slow weapon mastery and reducing Busain's walk speed by 10 feet. Busain can't stop now though. He continues running through the difficult terrain of the crowds, moving another 30 feet, and then using his Step of the Wind to dash again as a bonus action, again gaining extra movement equal to his swim speed. We'll say that he didn't have any focus points remaining, so he only got the dash. There's 15 feet more of the bazaar's difficult terrain to run through, then he moves his last 5 feet out of the crowds. He's free to move normally again. Busain flies 35 feet down to the edge of the pier and then stops. Okay, here's your decision point. The ship is 55 feet away. If we assume that there were no illegal movements, or if there were, then Busain chose a different method of locomotion, which would have resulted in him arriving at the edge of the pier with an equal amount of movement on his meter, can he make it to the ship? Option A. Busain can run 25 feet along the pier and then use the effect of the jump spell, spending 10 feet of movement to jump 30 feet onto the ship. Option B. Busain can spend 10 feet of movement to jump 30 feet forward into the air and then fly 25 feet down onto the ship. Or option C. Busain could spend 10 feet of movement to jump into the choppy sea, which is difficult terrain, and then swim 25 feet onto the ship. We'll say that this space has the anchor or a ladder or something on it, which he can hold onto and climb up on his next turn. Which options will get him onto the 4 time so he can catch Jen Bonson and punish him for subjecting you all to this horrific mess? There may be multiple, or there might only be one. If you need to go back to the start to check your maths, here's a timestamp. Or if you want all of that written down, there's a link in the description to a Google Doc. Do you have your answers? Okay, let's go back to the beginning and I'll walk you through it one more time. So, we began on the west side of town with Busain riding Binning Roo. At the bottom of your screen you'll see the meter for Binning Roo. His only speed is a 60-foot walk speed. The first thing that he did was take the dash action, so we deduct 60 foot from his meter, putting it at minus 60. He then ran 60 feet, which just brings us back up to 0 on the meter, and is then hit by a whip, applying the slow mastery. That reduces his walk speed down to 50, but has no impact on the movement he has already used. It does not retroactively change his dash. Binning Roo then walked 15 feet, which is a simple plus 15 to the meter, and then another 5 feet to step inside the Spirit Guardians. And look at what happens to the meter here. The speed just dropped massively down to 25 feet. Binning Roo is now only 5 feet away from maxing out his movement. Again, this here is the reason why we are using an energy meter which increases and not a fuel gauge which decreases. If you use a fuel gauge, then every time your speed changes, you also have to recalculate your remaining movement. Using a meter though, you don't have to do that. Your accumulated distance moved always remains the same. Using a meter literally halves the amount of math that you need to do. Anyway, Binning Roo didn't just move 5 feet into the Spirit Guardians, he moved 10 feet in, and as you can see, he had just enough movement to do that. No illegal moves have been made yet. Okay, if you haven't made a mistake yet, good job! Now that Binning Roo has finished moving, let's switch over to Busain Alt's meter. As you can see, he hasn't used any movement yet. Whilst riding a horse or similar, you don't use any of your own movement, you use the horse's movement, and that allows you to massively extend your effective range. What's going on with his speeds though? Wasn't it meant to be 75 walk speed, 90 fly speed, and 105 swim speed? This is the effect of the Spirit Guardians. It halves Busain's walk speed. For the walk speed itself, that's easy enough. 75 gets halved to 37.5. Note that speeds are not rounded to the nearest 5, only movement is. And since Spirit Guardians has a duration, you halve the fly speed in the same way, 90 down to 45. What's going on with the swim speed though? It's normally 105. Why is it now 33.75 and not 52.5? Well, remember how the swim speed is calculated. It's equal to Busain's walk speed. That means that it starts at Busain's new walk speed of 37.5 feet. Then we add on unarmoured movement and long strider, bring it up to 67.5 feet, before halving it a second time down to 33.75. Normally, Busain's swim speed is 30 feet greater than his walk speed, but by simply stepping into the Spirit Guardians, it tanks it down so much that it's actually lower than his walk speed. These rules are freaking insane. By the way, put a pin in this calculation, because I have an appendix at the end of the video where I'll be confusing things even more because these rules want to give you an aneurysm. Right, so with all of that explained, let's get back to moving. The next few movements are probably the trickiest part. Busain dismounts. This costs him an amount of movement equal to half his walk speed round down. Most of the time that would be half of 75 feet round down, a total of 35 feet, which would take him up to his walk speed limit, meaning that he could no longer walk. But right now his speed isn't 70 feet, it's 37.5 feet. That means that he only spends half of 37.5 feet to dismount, or 18.75, and since we're playing on a grid, we then round down to the nearest multiple of 5. Instead of spending 35 feet to dismount, the Spirit Guardians meant that Busain only had to spend 15 feet. Now, he dismounted eastward to get closer to the bazaar and ultimately the pier. That moves him, right? Does it cost him any extra movement? The answer is no. Moving to a space adjacent to your mound is part of the 15 feet that he's just spent. Okay, let's continue. Busain now walked the 20 feet through the Spirit Guardians. This is another one that I expect many of you got wrong. Moving 20 feet through Spirit Guardians costs 20 feet. It is not difficult terrain, it just halves your walk speed. That there was a completely legal move. The next one, however, was not. Busain attempted to walk out of the Spirit Guardians. He could not do this. Currently his meter is sitting at 35 feet, and his walk speed is 37.5. If he spends 5 feet of movement to move to the next square, that would take him over his 37.5. He cannot walk any further. What he can still do, however, is fly. Busain's fly speed is currently 45 feet. That means that he can still spend 5 feet to move one more space, and when he does, bam, all the speeds return to normal. Before he did that flight, he was completely unable to walk, but now he can walk another 35 feet. In what universe does that make sense? Okay, back to easy stuff. He flies 25 feet to the bazaar. That's just plus 25 to the meter, bringing it up to 65 feet total. And then he uses the dash action and chooses to use his swim speed for the extra movement. That's minus 105 feet to the meter, bringing it down to minus 40. Busain then walks 20 feet through the difficult terrain of the bazaar, which means each square actually costs 10 feet of movement, plus 40 to the meter, bringing it back to 0. And he is then hit by a whip opportunity attack, reducing his walk speed by 10 feet until the enemy's next turn. This is walk speed with a duration, so that's minus 10 to walk, now 65, minus 10 to fly, now 80, and as always, because swim is equal to his walk speed, we double count the reduction, reducing swim speed by 20 feet down to 85. Isn't this game wonderful? We can't stop now though. Busain walks another 30 feet through difficult terrain, adding 60 feet to the meter, and then uses Step of the Wind to dash as a bonus action. Last time he dashed, Busain got 105 feet of extra movement because his swim speed was 105 feet. Now though, that whip has reduced it to 85 feet, so he only gets 85 feet of extra movement. That's right, dashing is also affected by changes to your speeds. If Busain had been proactive and dashed twice earlier instead of dashing once and then waiting to dash again, he would have been able to move an additional 20 feet on his turn. Why the hell does it matter when in the turn you use this action that lets you move further? Home stretch, we're almost done. 15 feet of difficult terrain in the bazaar is 30 feet on the meter, bringing us up to 5, and then he steps out of the bazaar. Because Busain is moving onto normal terrain, not difficult terrain, this only costs him 5 feet, not 10 feet. The difficult terrain penalty is applied based on the square you move into, not the square you move out of. Then he flies down to the edge of the pier a further 35 feet, making his final reading on the meter 45 feet. If you were using the fuel gauge method, first up, how, and second up, your final answer is that he had 20 feet left to spend on walking, 35 feet left to spend on flying, and 40 feet left to spend on swimming. So Busain had 3 options here. Option A was to spend 25 feet of movement walking along the pier and then use the effects of the jump spell, spending an additional 10 feet of movement to jump 30 feet. Obviously, this won't work. If he spent 25 feet on walking, that would take him up to 70 feet on his meter, above his 65-foot walk speed. Option A is bust. Option B was to spend the 10 feet from the jump spell to jump 30 feet forward into the air, and then fly down 25 feet. That cost a total of 35 feet, bringing his meter up to the final amount of 80 feet. He just barely makes it. If you picked option B, congratulations, you were correct. If you were correct for the right reason, I don't believe you, but if you were, nonetheless correct. And finally, option C. Spend the 10 feet to jump 30 feet into the water, which is choppy and counts as difficult terrain, and then swim to the ship. Unfortunately, the difficult terrain stops it. Busain can only swim 15 feet before he maxes out his meter. He's just 2 spaces short of the 4 at a time, and Jem Bonson would get away. Option C fails. So yes, the only way to do it was option B, jumping into the air and then flying down. Once again, well done if you got that right. But we're not done yet because it's time for audience participation part 3, lightning round. Jem Bonson was expecting Busain ult to chase him, and has taken the ready action, preparing to cast Earthbind, which reduces Busain's fly speed down to 0. Option B no longer works, he can't fly anymore. Your job is to find option D. There is still one way that Busain can reach the ship. Remember, his meter is at 45 feet, he has 65-foot walk speed and 85-foot swim speed. The water is difficult terrain, and he casts the jump spell on himself, letting him move forward 30 feet at the cost of just 10 feet of movement. He can still make it. Are you ready? I'm revealing the answer in 3, 2, 1, let's jam. Busain can walk 20 feet along the pier, then spend 10 feet to jump into the water, then spend 10 feet to swim onto the ship. The movement spent on jump can exceed Busain's walk speed, as long as he has a different speed which is greater. This could even be used on land actually. If the ship was 5 feet closer and Busain was just jumping directly onto it rather than into the water, he could still max out his walk speed and then have jump eat into the swim speed that he isn't using. What is this? Why does it work like this? Who on earth designed it? Hey, are you still alive? If you're not sure, pinching yourself can help. You know you're in hell if it bursts into flames. That was a mess. I want to reiterate, I do not recommend that you use these rules. I do not use these rules. I don't think anyone on the planet uses these rules, because as soon as you understand them well enough to know how they actually work, you realise that it's far easier not to. What I personally recommend is that you just do whatever you have already been doing. If it makes sense to you and your table, then that's good enough. Now, as promised, here's another cute penguin clip. Look at all the little baby penguins, they're so fluffy! Oh, and here's the big mummy penguin! Doesn't that make it all worth it? And I have 2 little appendices, one on those Spirit Guardian calculations, and another on how other games do movement. So, let's go back to the Spirit Guardians. Forget about fly speeds, swim speeds, we're only going to look at Busain ult's walk speed here. I'm done making this video pointlessly complex. As a Wood Elf, Busain has a base walk speed of 35 feet, and then has 4 modifiers. Roving gives him plus 10, Unarmoured Movement gives him plus 20, Longstrider gives plus 10, and Spirit Guardians halves it. What order do you apply those in? Is it the order that they occurred? Do you follow what Americans seem to call PEMDAS and us Brits correctly call BIDMAS, doing multiplication and division first, then addition and subtraction afterwards? Do you do it the other way around? Do you get to choose? The answer is, it doesn't say. The simultaneous effects section in the rules glossary suggests that you get to choose, but this is specifically talking about things activating at the same time, such as 2 opportunity attacks being triggered, rather than talking about overlapping continuous effects. And it also says that the turn player chooses. It seems wrong for your speeds to suddenly change because it's now the enemy's turn and they want to stack your buffs in a different order. The only other remotely relevant thing that I could find was the order of application of damage, which suggests that addition and subtraction occur first, followed by division, and then finally multiplication. It's a rule, but it doesn't specifically apply to ongoing effects like speeds. The way I got around this in the example was by cleverly formulating it so that the optimal stacking order was also the order in which I introduced the effects, which also followed the damage application order, so it didn't matter which methodology you followed. Busain actually wanted his walk speed to be as low as possible in that moment, so he could spend as little movement on dismounting as possible. It even meant that I got to show off an illegal move. Last bit, Appendix 2. I expect that by now there are already comments about how WotC are terrible game designers, or that this is why you should stick with 2014 or something like that. First off, the 2024 rules are actually better than the 2014 rules. They fix several bizarre issues like grapple halving, and the fact that features like Rare Frost, which reduced a creature's speed, technically didn't affect fly or swim speeds at all, unless they were equal to your walk speed. Using Rare Frost on the dragon was completely pointless. Second, both Pathfinder 2e and DC20 have similar issues. Pathfinder has the same thing where certain speed modifications get double counted, and DC20 has the same 2014 issue where creatures with fly speed are technically immune from speed changes. Issues with movement rules are pervasive across the entire market. Very few games do them well. Also, both of those games suffer from the same issue where your walk speed is just called speed. Why? Why do games do this? Stop, please, it's really confusing. I've been told that Lancer has very good movement rules, but I haven't actually looked into it myself. My favourite movement rules are from Fabula Ultima, because it doesn't have any. Like a classic JRPG, the party of the monsters just line up and slap each other. You don't need movement to make an interesting game, but if you want to do it anyway, what do? I've mentioned it before, but I have my own custom system that I work on as a hobby. I don't really have any plans for it, it's just a bit of fun. But here are my rules. You have 5 movement points, and you can spend them in predefined ways to move. You don't have to mess around with different speeds and any modifiers like using the dash ability, or being hit by the critical turnabout of a longbow, just modify the number of MP that you have. So there's never any double counting or immunities, and I just won't have any halving or doubling, so there's no issue with order of operations. What if there's a monster like a shark, which can swim really quickly but can't move on land? Well, you give it the aquatic passive, which means that they only need to spend 1 MP to swim, but cannot walk, climb or crawl. Effectively, I have made movement a single primary resource with a defined amount, and then specified costs for different methods of locomotion, rather than having the methods of locomotion define the resource available. I believe that Draw Steel does something similar to this, although I haven't been following it closely. This has also let me mess around and fine tune the numbers. For example, you might notice that a character normally has 5 MP and can dash to get 3 more. Why is that? It's because characters have 2 primary actions on their turn, which is that P in angle brackets. So if you're dashing in difficult terrain, or while swimming or something like that, your first dash is worth 2 extra spaces, but your second dash is worth only 1, and you can never swim faster than a shark, even without it using its primaries to dash. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, why? Are you insane? I mentioned Fabula Ultima there. It's got good rules. If you need something that makes sense to help you regain some semblance of mental stability, why not give this video a watch? If you want to torture your friends, make sure that you share this with them, and remember to subscribe. I promise not to do anything as brain-numbing as this again for a good while. I'll talk about nice happy rules, and maybe penguins. Bye!